Welcome to Olivia's Blooms. If you are new to my channel, I'm gardening in Charlottesville, Virginia, Zone 7B. I'm a home gardener who loves growing my own cut flowers and home decor with a focus on sustainable, regenerative, and eco-friendly practices. But most importantly, I'm here to support, share with, and learn from other gardeners, so I hope you will join me in growing this amazing gardening community. Hey guys, welcome back to Olivia's Blooms. Despite my smile, I'm having a little bit of a panic because I went to check on my ranunculus this morning and a lot of them were rotting, and that was so disappointing. But I wanted to share with you because, you know, I don't think just pretending that there's this facade where everything goes well is accurate. There's lots of things that go wrong in gardening. Not everything is a success, but I'm trying to be resilient, and I think that's part of the process too. So I want to show you what I'm doing and how I'm going to try and fix it. Also, my dog just burst in, so I need to get her out of here. Okay, so here's what I think happened. I pre-soaked my ranunculus corms the way I always do. They looked fine. I introduced some air during the process. I soaked them for about 4 hours. They looked nice and plump. But then when I went to put them in potting soil, I didn't have my usual potting soil, which is the Fox Farms Coco Loco. I like that potting soil because it's one that I've had a lot of success with that's peat-free. But what I had on hand was all I could find at Target, which was this Back to Bare Roots organic potting mix. And this is not the one I initially used. So this is their indoor potting mix, and it's different than I'm used to. It doesn't look like normal soil, and so that made me nervous to start. And what I found was I really struggled to get it to the right moisture level. It was either too dry, or when I wet it, it just stayed moist, too moist. And so I'm not 100% surprised that my corms rotted, but I was disappointed at how quickly it happened. I was checking them daily, and it seemed like one day they were fine and the next day they were all rotting. And maybe I wasn't checking them as thoroughly as I thought. So I'm really disappointed. I had about say 27, 28 ranunculus and about 15 anemones. The anemones seem absolutely fine. But what I did is first I panicked, and then I freaked out. And then once I got it together, I took them all out of this potting soil. And I'm leaving it here just in case I missed some. I went through pretty thoroughly, but can you imagine trying to find a tiny little anemone corm in this? It's pretty easy to miss. So I'm leaving it there just in case by some miracle I missed one and it manages to survive. But I took them out individually, and then I tried to, similar to how you would do a dahlia, remove any of the rotting tubers. So here's one, and interestingly, a lot of the ones that were rotting were also sprouting. But to the best of my ability, I went through, I squeezed all of these little tubers. I removed any that felt soft or like they were rotting. And then I put it back in this potting soil. And again, this is not my favorite Fox Farms potting soil because I didn't have any left. So I just used the regular Back to Bare Roots organic potting mix. I've never used this either, so I'm pretty nervous still. I don't know if these are going to survive, and if they survive, I don't know how well they're going to do out in the landscape. If anyone else has had this happen, I would be really interested to know if you were able to save them, because this is about half my stock. I have another 25 ranunculus and another 15 anemones that I will be pre-sprouting this weekend as my second succession. I definitely will not be using that potting mix. I'm definitely going to be a little more conscious about the water moisture level, but I am just really struggling to get it right this year. So we'll see if this works. I still have some that seem like they're doing fine. But I don't know if a corm starts sprouting and a tuber has rotted and you remove that tuber, will it still do okay? But we're gonna try our best, and worst comes to worst, if these don't do well, I'm going to make sure my second succession will do well, and I will have learned a very important lesson for next year. Always have good potting soil on hand for pre-sprouting your ranunculus. I also put them under the light in hopes that that would help keep some warmth, because I think, again, the cold air, so they were in my garage in this tray, and it was about 35-45 degrees, and that's also probably part of the reason why it stayed so moist. But I do think a lot of it was the potting soil medium itself. Fingers crossed this does well. I will keep you guys updated on how they're doing and how many I actually get to grow. And if you want to see what a rotting ranunculus tuber looks like, this is a little hard to see, but this tuber right here, I can feel. This is one of the ones I didn't even try, I just gave up on, but I smushed it with my finger. It came right off, and it's just squishing in my hand, and it's got like a milky, sappy feeling to it, versus a healthy tuber. You can squeeze and it's pretty firm, similar to, oh, this one's rotted. See how that just came right apart? But a good tuber will just stay nice and firm in your hands. So this one, I'm not even trying. It's, all of the tubers were pretty much rotted out, so disappointing. We are outside now in what feels like it might be potentially my second disaster in gardening this year, but I think it's too early to say for sure that it's going to be a disaster. Let me show you what is going on right now in my lasagna garden. So I decided I thought it was time to start pulling off the straw that I was using on my, oh, hi bear, on my lasagna bed. I noticed the daffodils starting to peek through, and I'm a little concerned because as I'm pulling up the top layers of straw, which are nice and dry, there's a very wet, thick mat of straw, and I'm concerned that the soil maybe have stayed way too wet over the winter. And I know dahlias and anemones do not love sitting in water. I think most plants don't love sitting in water. Sorry, ranunculus, not anemones. And I've noticed some ranunculus sprouts kind of coming up that look a little bit anemic. I'm hoping that they'll make a comeback once they get some sunshine and once they start to get some airflow, but I hope that this wasn't a mistake. I was worried about bulbs dying from the cold, and now I'm worried that they will have rotted from the moisture, so only time will tell. You can see my lovely cat put lots of holes in this fabric here. Really helpful. Here's a final look at the bed now that it's all cleared out. Should be interesting to see. We have a couple nights down in the 27, 28, and then I think it's supposed to be mostly in the 30s. I am going to cover this up with another layer of frost cloth right on the top, just because of those couple nights coming up and because there's so many holes in the fabric right now. At least that won't add moisture, so I'm not too worried about that. But we will see if this is going to come back and how our experiment does. Here's one of the culprits right here. And there's a look at the garden all tucked in under frost cloth. In hindsight, knowing how wet our winters are here, I probably should have tarped this on top of the straw. I think a lot of growers who leave, especially dahlias, in the ground over winter will add a tarp on top to control the moisture. I should have done that. If I try this again, I will definitely add a tarp. And I am adding a lot more dahlias this year, so I probably will try and leave those in the ground so I'm not having to dig them up since we are so close to a zone 8. and add straw and tarp those this fall. But I've calmed down. I have a plan for a way forward. I think everything's gonna be okay. Even if I lose a lot of these flowers, I'm still gonna be growing tons of beautiful things this year. And I just wanted to share this with you guys so you can see how things do not always go everyone's way, but you still can grow beautiful, gorgeous flowers. You just have to take these hiccups with stride, and it helps knowing I have such awesome, supportive viewers out there. So thanks for everything, and I hope you enjoyed gardening with me today as much as I did.